If you could build one EDC to use for the rest of your life, what items would be in it? I'm still pretty young,
I'm not.
and my life can change. But one thing I think I would want to keep is a watch. How often do you do maintenance and cleanup of your EDC items, like knives, etc.? So how are we going to keep these things lasting until the end of your life in 20 years, Mikey? I went from collecting EDC like many people to deciding to settle on one user or keeper of each category. I carry and grail hunted to find my favorite of each category, and this is what I came up with. Definitely grails in here for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're starting with the discontinued limited edition Leatherman Garage Batch 5. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Carry the Way, the weekly podcast where we nerd out about all things EDC gear and maybe try to teach you a thing or two while we're at it. I'm Bernard, the founder of EverydayCarry.com, and I'm joined by our editor, Mikey.
Hey, what's up?
So if you're new to the show, welcome. Here we talk about the latest in EDC gear, answer questions from the community, and review pocket dump submissions from our viewers. And if you've listened before, we just want to say thanks so much for all the support. And give a quick reminder to thumbs up and like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, as it really helps the channel. So we'll start as usual with our pocket dump. Mikey, what do you got for us this week?
I've been traveling last week, second time in the same month, I believe. And I was in Manila for a show. And I'm running into some packing problems right now because the CPAP machine I'm bringing around is really cumbersome. It takes up the whole backpack.
Yeah.
And now I now have to move power banks from my pouches to my backpack when I'm flying, my extension cables from my backpack to my luggage when I'm during flight, and then move them back around. So I have to kind of redo stuff, and the backpack isn't giving me enough space for other things as well, in addition to the machine. So I may have a remedy for that in the coming weeks. But it's given me something to think about in the meantime. But clutch as always, I brought the Leatherman T4, and on the
Nice.
first night I had a hangnail that caught in my shirt, and you know those memes where those hangnails catch, and then you're like, oh, I'm just gonna
Rip
pull
it
on
off.
it, and then it rips off through to the arm. Almost got there. I got through maybe half a centimeter, and I'm like, okay, gotta cut that off. Second night, I bought some snacks. Couldn't open it for some reason. They have industrial grade packaging on the top of the snacks. Couldn't open it. Scissors, clutch. Finally, third day, bought some stuff. They had those plastic tags, and scissors came in clutch. So never ever leaving home without this. I swear to God.
Yeah.
The ones,
Are you not carrying your nail clippers anymore?
I do. I just brought my own. Yeah, my wife brought. It's the nail clippers are the Swiss Army knife is my wife, so I just brought my own just to self-sufficiency and just so she has one as well.
Yeah, I mentioned that just because I find that to be most effective against hangnails. As a climber, I chalk up my hands all the time, so like they get dry, get hangnails and stuff. So
it was just clutch because we had just landed, and it was just bugging me so much, and I could fish out the scissors at least, and it's the ones on the T4 are just thin enough so I could just enough to get out of the way and not climb up my arm like in those memes. So yeah, that's pretty much the tale of the travel tape. Nice. Anything new with you?
And to be clear, though, you checked the T4.
I did, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so that our viewers aren't getting any ideas. Yeah. For me, I've changed up some of my keychain carry, and I will show that in a bit because it kind of relates to our news cycle. But in the meantime, that means I have a separate carabiner so this is my old carabiner, and I've changed my main carabiner, but this one just has some of the keychain gear that I would normally carry. So I have the Gear Infusion Ghost TI, and then I have my Mordico Nano Sprayer fragrance thing.
Infamous.
Yes. Swiss Army knife and ALOX. I want to upgrade this to the Prometheus Design Works, I think. Yeah, the titanium scales, but I think it's easier to do with the Celador scales and not the ALOX. So I'll probably like dig one up and then do that. And then lastly, this is the Roby Vaughn with the MAO coating because it kind of looks like it matches. I don't have a titanium Roby Vaughn, but this is the A3 in high CRI with the molecular. What is MAO again? Micro arc oxidation coating. Yes, micro arc oxidation coating, which makes it look like marble or stone, and it has this interesting texture to it. and it's very cool. So I used this the other day. I went to a wedding, and it ended very late at night, and there were no streetlights on the way back to my car. So I just busted this out for visibility and safety. So
What's in the
there you go.
what fragrance? While we're on the topic, well, what fragrance is in the canister?
It's
What
like
are
a
you rocking
mix.
these
It
days?
it used to be House of Mancera Instant Crush, and then I changed that later to Eccentric Molecules Molecule 01, and then I
Hmm.
went back to Instant Crush. So now it's like a combination of the two. And I don't know if it smells good, but it's better than nothing, I guess. So that's what I have on there.
The 01 is a pheromone. Sorry, it's what's the generic term? There's testosterone is pheromone. What's the what do you call it in general?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Isn't pheromone is pheromone just for both genders?
I think so.
Do you use it for both genders? Okay.
But you're
Anyway,
but you're not smelling testosterone anyway. Yeah,
no,
I
no,
don't know what you're cooking
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I know. I used to think that the molecule scents were pheromone enhancers. Like it would smell different for different people depending on your body chemistry.
That
Isn't
is
that what?
true.
Yeah,
That is true for the molecule in
yeah.
it. It's ISO E super. We're getting very nerdy
I know.
about fragrances and chemistry
We'll
and
save
stuff.
that for
So
later.
yeah, we could do that later. But I do want to jump into the other addition to my pocket dump, and might as well get the ad out of the way because the ad sponsor and parent of the parent company of everydaycarry.com, Ridge, is part of that. So Ridge is best known for their premium minimalist metal EDC wallets with RFID blocking technology and a lifetime warranty. But they make all sorts of EDC gear these days, like EDC knives, key organizers, wedding bands, machine pens, backpacks, and hard shell luggage too. I use their products every day, and so do a ton of other people with over 50,000 five-star reviews. They make gear in quality materials like carbon fiber and titanium, and a bunch of new matching colors and designs. But if metal wallets aren't your thing, they also just launched a collection of soft leather wallets too, like the Ridge Biflex. You can try them out with a 99-day risk-free trial to see if you like them and upgrade your EDC with Ridge at ridge.com/carrytheway for 10% off your order. It supports the show, and thanks again to Ridge for sponsoring today's episode. So, with that disclaimer and ad out of the way, this is the uh, thing that I've been carrying from them. But first, let me put some visuals on the screen real quick.
Safe to talk about it now.
It is. So by the time that this episode airs, it should be out, and hopefully people dig it because I dig it. But this is what we're talking about here. This is the
Sweet.
dual chamber carabiner. So this one is made of grade 5 titanium. I believe this is the first time Ridge is using grade 5 titanium. They're upping their materials game, and it just makes sense for the purpose of an EDC carabiner. It's not rated for climbing or like load bearing or anything like that, but it does have some cool features to it for just EDC stuff. So um, I've been using it for a while, and I like the size and length. It's maybe a little bit big for what how I like to carry because I don't like to tuck it into my back pocket. But you can already see in this image how the
How
the
that could work.
yeah, how it can tuck into the back just because it has enough length. But also it's big enough so that it's easier to use in your hand, right? Like
Mm.
this gate section, it's pretty oversized, I would say, and unobstructed by the keys on here because of the dual chamber design. So keys and gear stay on the bottom, while the belt loop or bag strap or whatever you're attaching it to just like is separate on the top. And also comes in black, by the way. This one comes
Thank
in
you.
aluminum. Yeah, this one comes in an anodized aluminum, but similar to how the titanium one was upgraded from usually grade 2 to grade 5 for that application. This is upgraded from 6061 T6 aluminum that's used on their wallets and other products to a T7071. No, sorry,
7075.
7071. No, it's not 75. It's actually 7071 to
Hmm.
be specific. Still
Okay.
T7, and 7075 is more common, but it's still a 7000 series aluminum used on here. So a little bit stronger
Yeah.
and still has like all the properties of aluminum that you'd want for your EDC. And the cool thing about this is it also has like an integrated bottle opener ridge here, or not ridge, but like fin. And yeah, and
Hey.
yeah, exactly. And it's so it's slightly curved here at the fin, and if you put that under a bottle cap, the curvature kind of like holds on with more surface area to the underside of the bottle cap, and it just helps align and fit the bottle better. And
Mhm.
it works well with how big the bottom chamber is you know how like sometimes bottle openers, it's just like a little lip on a very thin surface, and you just have
Yeah.
to like hope that the notch catches correctly.
Yeah. And then
This
you
is
pull
like,
out one tiny
yeah,
bit of the bottle cap and not the whole
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
and then it just
exactly.
like doesn't work anymore. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is like wider. It encompasses the entire bottle cap because it's just like this wider opening here. It's similar to just like a dedicated, you know, like one you'd have at the bar, that kind of bottle opener. So it works really well for that. And the designers also reinforced the pivot section of the gate here. So normally on carabiners, it's a just a pivot pin that just pushes through. So this one is actually a barrel screw on the pivot, with a Torx screw here. So it echoes the design language and material choices and hardware choices of the other Ridge products, so like wallets and key cases or whatever. But what that does is it adds a little bit extra reinforcement on the pivot itself in the gate, so that you can use this to pry open bottle caps over time. So, and then all of that is like, you know, comfortable because of all the champers, like these big champers and the finishing and all that doesn't really pinch when I use it. No sharp edges, just really good fit and finish, and the action is pretty snappy. So,
My question is, did you have any input at all into the design of this?
no, I didn't help with this at all actually.
I ask
So,
because I think A, it looks pretty cool, and B, we're both fans of Han Gray's interpretation of the double gate
oh sure,
carabiner, the
yeah,
titanium.
yeah,
And I'm like, this looks like exactly something we would have advised that would be a cool implementation of a carabiner.
yeah,
And in
yeah.
titanium, double gate, just make use of all of the edges and have it nice and chamfered so it's comfortable. And yeah, that's why I asked if you had any input with it because it seems like it's designed for something we both would like.
Yeah. And one cool thing about this that I'll try to show you guys on the camera real quick is how the gate section works, because it's a dual chamber design. So
Mm.
when you open the gate, like you're opening the gate to attach to your belt loop or something, like you'll open the gate and then it kind of helps block off the keyring from sliding towards the opening of the gate. So that's like one fail safe of that. But even if like it somehow gets past that, it's when the gate is fully opened, the bar itself kind of blocks off uh, the keyring from moving again, so it doesn't accidentally slide off. But even if it does somehow push past that, it will like push the gate closed anyway. So then it kind of ends up on the top section, the top chamber, and that's kind of like a fail safe too. So there's like two or three fail safes built into the design of the dual chamber that you don't really get on most standard like gas station or even climbing kind of carabiners, right? Where it's just
Or like an S
single
binary
gate.
gate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's pretty cool, well thought out, and a lot of cool features there. So I'm just excited to see Ridge lean into more EDC products, use premium materials, interesting like engineering and design decisions and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
hopefully people will appreciate that too. So that should be out by now, by the time this episode airs.
Do you have an MSRP?
I don't remember. I think it's around 65 to 85, something like that. I think 85
Right.
might be a bit high.
And
But
last question, is the pivot screw the same Torx that's on the wallets? Because I feel like that would be intentional.
I don't think it's the same as the wallets. I think the wallets are T6. I don't remember actually. Let me. From the eye test, they look the same, but I would have to check later. But they're very close. It
Yeah.
definitely looks like Ridge DNA.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of just the small update to my carry for this week. Then we could jump into the rest of the news cycle, which should already be sort of published on everydaycarry.com if you want to catch all the new releases. Mikey does a good job of um, doing some roundups of those and some articles as those come out, so you guys can be in the loop as well. So next here we have the CIVIVI Yonder.
Mm.
What do you want to tell us about this, Mikey?
This first popped up, I believe, on Blade Show a few months ago, and it won the award for Best Buy. So it's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
great value offering. Obviously, from CVV, it's going to be a nice value. And it's designed by Zach Whitmore, also known as Zach in the Wild, a
Yep.
former Blade HQ alum, same as Ben Peterson. They used to be the faces of Blade HQ's video department, and all around very pleasant, nice knife guys. So this is
Mm-hmm.
Zach's second knife. He has another OTF knife called the Axial Shift, but this is his first collaboration with Civivi, and it won the award at Blade Show again. And it's, I believe, my understanding is this is Civivi's first crossbar lock, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, now that I think about it, so when I first saw this, I was like, oh, another like 3 inch
I know.
ish
I knew.
crossbar lock.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, but then it's like, oh wait, it's Civivi though. Don't they normally do liners and button? And yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
right.
the main ones that they do.
Yeah, I believe I could be I could have misread it somewhere, but I believe it is CVV's first, but first crossbar lock, and which makes it completely ambidextrous. You have double thumb studs. You have a reversible pocket clip. You can see the spacer right there on the
Mm-hmm.
back, and nice budget materials. You got G10, 1428C, 14C28N, which is a great budget steel, and very nice sub 3 inch shape. I think, if you're
Yeah,
looking,
yeah.
if you're still not fed up with the full, with the whole crossbar lock, dependable everyday sub 3 inch EDC knife, then here's another one to choose from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of like the blade shape. This
I do.
what
Yeah.
they call a spay point. Spay
Oh, is
point.
it Spay Point? Although you
Yeah.
could definitely just hide everything under modified Tanto or
Yeah,
modified
modified
draw
draw
point.
point or something. Yeah.
It all
But it is
applies.
like an interesting like blade shape here. Makes it just a stouter appearance overall, I think.
Mm, yeah, I
Yeah.
do
And
like
this
the handle has a finger guard,
mhm.
like a finger stop. The edge has a edge. What do you call that? The terminating point of the edge of the sharpening choil. There you go.
Oh, I was gonna say Ricasso. I
Yeah,
don't know if
that's
that's
it. Also,
real. Oh,
I think
okay.
that's
It's
it.
just
I think
like
that's the
okay, yeah.
official name for it. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and pretty solid basic knife,
award winning. Yeah, from
award
a
winning.
community favorite, Zach in the Wild. So
Yeah,
very cool. And yeah, from a solid budget or not even budget brand anymore, Civivi, like they do good budget stuff, but they're capable of doing a lot more across their different brands and
definitely.
different models.
And if
So
people don't know, Civivi isn't even their budget brand. Sencut is their
yeah, send
budget
cut.
brand.
Yep.
So Civivi is already kind of middle of the road stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're always Civivi's and we and Sencut are always releasing nonstop. They're one of the most prolific knife makers out there right now. I feel like
Yeah.
every other week they're releasing new models. It's really hard to
Yeah.
keep up. Yeah.
So this one is at $67, and this one's coming soon as of the time that we're recording this, but it should be out what's it, October 21st if everything goes well. So
Correct.
I believe that should be already passed by the time this video comes out. So cool. This is another instance of creators, I guess, or like people who are known mostly for their content making
Mm,
products, right? I think that's
yeah.
a trend that we're going to continue to see in the EDC space.
It has
So,
been proven though. I wasn't a believer of the banter when it came out, which is Ben Peterson's original
mhm,
design with Civivi, and that thing took off like crazy. I mean,
yeah,
how many versions is it on now? And it was a bestseller when it first came out, and Ben went on to found his own knife company on the back of that. So
hmm
yeah, so there is some precedent for creators making some good stuff. So when is
yeah,
the next Bernard knife is gonna come out?
dude,
So we
I
finally
will
know what your
no,
preferences are for your
yeah,
2024 knife.
Dude, I don't know, but
We
I will
must
say,
know.
like, we have to give credit to the creators who are making physical products, because it is not easy going
No,
from sort of a content business into physical goods. That
especially
is like,
now.
yeah, especially now. Maybe to some extent, it's easier and not as challenging as, like, say, during COVID or something, right? But
Mm.
and maybe there's more resources out there to get that off the ground, but it's still a very difficult undertaking. So props to these guys, props to Zach, for putting this out, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of fans of this, and I imagine it will only get better, right? So,
Yeah. And
um,
props to the makers also for taking a chance on, they
mhm.
could have gone with Ken Nunyan or everybody
Yeah,
else.
right, right.
But
So this was the CIVIVI Yonder, and then next up in our news cycle, we have something from Evergoods.
yeah. So Evergoods is one of those brands. The founders were former Gorak designers who wanted to do their own thing, and they have been massively popular over the past few years in the carry community.
Mm-hmm.
And the Griffin edition of their bags is kind of like their special line. It's a bit more premium material. Sometimes they go the full heritage route, and this is the case here with this book bag. And the CTB, I believe, is the other model under the new Chapter Two Griffin line, and they are waxed canvas, very heritage inspired leather. They have a limited edition blood orange one, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to point this out because I don't have any. Mystery Ranch and Evergoods are two brands that I have very very little experience with, but they are two of
Mm.
the biggest brands out there. I need to widen my scope, so I wanted
Yeah.
to feature. This is one of the newer ones, and and I like this trend also. It's available. It's a limited edition thing, but it's available. You have
Well,
add to cart right now. Of course,
oh, well, okay, yeah,
the limited
okay,
one is
sure.
gonna be gone. Yeah, because that's the
Well,
one they.
both of the wax tan is still in stock as of
Yeah,
now, but yeah,
the blood orange is definitely the one for the community enthusiasts to grab
right.
for limited edition. But the fact that it is a very fairly hyped collab and an unusual there's not many people making book bags now outside of Herschel and
Mm-hmm.
JanSport. But if people wanted that form factor, they could get it from Evergoods, one of the more popular brands out right now. And yeah, I have very little experience with Evergoods, even less experience with wax canvas, which is not like my least favorite, one of my least favorite
Yeah,
materials.
yeah.
But I
But
do
I know a
appreciate,
lot of our
yeah.
viewers like enjoy
Oh
the
yeah,
wax canvas
I
leather
love
stuff.
seeing
So,
it though. I love seeing it in
mm-hmm.
other people who dress like this and ride motorcycles and have the whole, you know, the whole
Mm-hmm.
Huckberry catalog look. You know, the heritage Americana denim and leather and all of that. I love the
Yeah.
look. I definitely cannot pull it off. Absolutely not. But yeah, it's nice to see, and I'm just appreciative that these special projects are becoming more and more available. It's just nice to see that it's nature is healing as far as
Okay.
the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
special stuff. You're now able
Yeah.
to quote unquote walk into a store and buy the stuff people are talking about. So it's nice to see.
Okay. I see.
Yeah,
Okay. So when they say like Griffin collection, that's the collaboration with Carryology,
I believe
or just
so.
the patch?
Could be. I'm
Okay.
I'm not I'm not 100% sure. I believe it's
Mm-hmm.
more a Evergoods product with input from Carryology as opposed to a full blown
Uh
um, limited release that's equally,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. What do you think about just the book bag, a 22-liter book bag silhouette for EDC, especially in these materials, done up in these materials?
I think it looks pretty interesting. It flips the script on the standard JanSport or the Herschel.
Mm-hmm.
If you've always liked that form factor, just no organization, just a lot of room, and has that more compact size and has a specific look.
Yeah, let's check
Didn't
this
you
out.
didn't you also you had the ghostly one, right? You have a book bag style backpack.
No, no. I mean, the closest thing I had was a long time ago. I'm talking like I was still in college. It was
Mm,
by, I think, a brand called like Tactical Tailor or something.
no, sounds
It,
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, it was way before. It was like around when 511 Rush was kind of
Mm.
meta, so long ago, and I
That's
got
long.
like a, Yeah, right. I got the book bag style because I was literally a student, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna carry books, and I should just get a book bag silhouette.
Yeah.
But I ended up moving over to the more tactical, like, or literally tactical stuff with Rush. But
They have a second.
yeah,
There's a second bag in this collection, which is more their standard. I believe it's their panel loader pack.
hmm
If you just go back one to their main bag page,
the Civic travel bag. Oh,
there you go.
there's actually quite a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the travel bag, and I believe one of the pouches is also in this style. So there
Oh
we go.
yeah, it is by Cross Carryology. So
Okay, okay,
yeah,
right, right. My bad, my bad.
that would make
But yeah,
sense.
so
Yeah.
it's nice to see. This is actually one from the recent collabs. They have been much more available, which I really hate.
hmm
I've been a part of this already. I hate that stuff sells out in 15 seconds and you're lining up with bots and resellers on eBay, and it's just so annoying. It's such a turnoff after you've experienced it a few
Yeah.
times. And the fact now that this and the more recent Mystery Ranch one is much more available with tons of stock in multiple parts of the world. I think that's just good overall. I think it's just
hmm
heal the community with stock. Just it's become so annoying across all hobbies.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
It's great if more people get to have access to
experience
the
it.
gear that they want, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I do need
Cool.
to try
Yeah.
an Evergoods bag sometime. Definitely.
Yeah. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, they're from like the team is from they were from what's it called? Goruk, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned
And
earlier they originally
okay, yeah.
split off from Gorak. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Evergood stuff looked good to me too. I just haven't really needed any of the bags that they offer. They kind of
I
have
know
an
exactly.
interesting crossover of like kind of like outdoor technical pack, but then also urban stuff, but then also some travel kind of aspects to it. But I'm more of like the urban city small EDC stuff, so that's why I haven't explored their stuff as much. But
Mhm.
cool, Evergoods cross carryology.
Still available.
Yep.
Amazingly.
Oh yeah, yeah, wax tan, wax camo. I think on this one too.
Yeah.
What would you pick out of the three? Wax
Blood
tan, camo,
orange.
or blood orange?
Blood
Uh,
orange if I could have
I,
gotten hold of it.
I think the blood orange is cool, but what I'm not sure about is the tonal like orange stitch zipper and the
Yeah, I
leather.
see it.
You know what I mean? I
When
think
it
that
when it
looks
starts to wear, they're gonna be different colors.
yeah, I think that looks better. That looks best on the wax tan
Hmm.
together with the leather accents. Anyway,
Black wax
so
10 could have been cool, but I know. I get that they're going for a
yeah.
capsule color. Yeah.
All
I
right.
get it. I get it.
Let's round out the news here, and we got something from Tactile Turn,
Hmm.
the
This has
Switch
been out a
Pen.
while. We haven't covered
Yeah.
it to our great regret, but it's
Uh
pretty
huh.
cool. It's the newest functional upgrade that they've done in a while. So they started
Mm-hmm.
with the knock stuff, they started with the bolt stuff, they have the side click, and now this is the switch pin, their latest
Right.
mechanism.
It's a new deployment. Well, it's not theirs, to be
It's
fair.
on theirs, yeah. They
Yeah.
adapted what
So
was
this
it?
is Magnus's click shift.
There you go.
Yeah. So I believe they worked out some kind of licensing agreement to use the click shift mechanism.
Mhm.
And how would you? Okay, here's a great example. It's like how would you explain how it works? But basically, it's like a light switch, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like a light switch where you can flick it in and out to deploy. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Man, Magnus takes me back so much. Remember all of his product pages and all of his Kickstarters with the
dude, he was like a mad scientist,
he
just
was,
like
yeah.
coming out with all these crazy things. So good for him. Yeah, and
He
then
had
this.
the most his tweezers were super popular,
Mhm.
his canisters were super popular. And yeah, I was not expecting to see his name on a tactile term
Yeah,
product. That's really interesting.
and
Yeah.
here's a good sort of representation of the
Oh, yeah.
different
Awesome.
mechanisms that they offer, right? So, yeah, Mikey mentioned before that they used to have a like a just traditional rear clicky knock type, silent knock type mechanism, but I think they've leaned
Mm,
more into the bolt action and side
yeah.
clicks.
It's definitely their bread and butter.
Yeah, I would
Even
you say that? Uh
I
huh.
believe even the cyclics haven't been as popular as the Bolt. People really still like the Bolt.
Yeah. Um, But would you say that the Switch, because you mentioned it's an upgrade.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
Um.
necessarily true. I think it's just like a different kind of experience. No.
Yeah. Not necessarily. Maybe a side grade is
Yeah.
more the correct word for it.
Yeah.
If you like light switches, if you like levers, if you're not
Mm-hmm.
as much of a fan as the bolt action as I am, because it's more generally more for righties. The
Mm-hmm.
direction your thumb goes is more natural for righties. I see this as something as a good alternative to the side click. I think. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought about fidgeting with a light switch type lever. Could be interesting. I haven't given it a shot. The big
Mm-hmm.
detriment though, that thing sticks out for a ways.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That might
Just
be
like from the
poking into
side.
some into some stuff. I
Yeah.
feel like that would bug me. I don't know.
I hmm. I'm wondering how it might interact in a pocket or bag or something when you have it clipped, because it's kind of like quite exposed and it just needs to go up or down. It doesn't, need to overcome like the J arc of a bolt action
Mhm.
or anything like that. So I don't know if it's easier to actuate or not. Um,
I'm also curious how strong the tension is for it, because if that would imagine if it were so stiff and it would just wear out your thumb from just how stiff
mm,
it would flick, and it would just start hurting the pad on your thumb.
I'm sure the action is like fairly dialed, but
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I didn't get a sample of this to try. I've tried basically every other tactile
Hmm.
turn, and if it's anything like those, then like I'm sure it's great. So
Yeah. You know what just crossed my mind? What if this worked kind of like the wave the wave functionality on a knife,
yeah,
where if
like
you
an
pull it out of
Emerson.
your
So
pocket,
as you pull
yeah,
it out, it
it
I don't think
engages.
that works because it would be upside down. You'd have to like right. You would have to actually. No, I
It
think that
might, right?
might work actually. Yeah, as you pull it
Well,
up,
it's in the
it will push the yeah exactly.
yeah.
While you
So
pull it up out of your pocket, it would
flicks
press the
down.
lever
Yeah,
down. Yeah, I don't know if that's if you would want that though.
I know.
Unless you really need to write something down really quickly. So yeah.
We need to talk to our friends at Tactile and try
Mm.
this thing out and be sure about it. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a nice little collection of new gear. So we had something for your keys, some bladed thing. We got a bag, and then we got a pen. So some nice variety, I would say. Different price points too. Maybe
Mhm.
a little skewing towards the higher end this time around, but
People aren't making cheap stuff these days so much,
uh
and
huh.
people are more
Uh-huh.
interested in the juicy stuff. So giving the people what they want,
Oh sure,
or
okay, yeah,
I could find the more affordable stuff.
yeah,
I love all
right.
kinds.
I'll look for some too. I think there have been some good watches that are coming out that are like
Oh,
pretty good value. So
not $800. Did you see that G Shock Chrono Oak Chrono Oak?
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
So well, I mean, in the grand scheme, watches have a crazy range of prices. But anyway,
absolutely.
that's our news for the week. Why don't we get into some questions, which also have a crazy range, and we'll do that. So every Monday on Instagram, we're gonna post a story where you can submit questions, or you can also send us an email at podcast@everydaycarry.com. And then if you want like a more immediate answer that's relevant to the episode, you might also just like leave a comment on the episode, and then Mike and I go through the comments and respond. So I did that earlier this morning. I went through and responded to some of the episodes from our or episode comments from our more regular viewers. So I appreciate that. So we'll start with another one here from Back the Blue. They said, if you could build one EDC to use for the rest of your life, what items would be in it?
Hmm. Do you have an answer for
Yeah.
this one? I think I have an answer for this one.
So it's hard for me to answer this because one, first I'm gonna do the cop out thing where I don't list specific products and models and brands and stuff because I don't
Oh,
think that
okay.
those will last for the rest of our
Okay.
lifetime.
Fair.
Maybe some
Fair.
will. Maybe some will if I pick very carefully. But I wanted to build some flexibility into this because honestly, I just don't know what the rest of my life is going to look like. I'm still pretty young. Uh, I'm still pretty young,
I'm not.
and my life can change. So, but one thing I think I would want to keep in my EDC is a watch. I think that's just like really hard
Fair.
for me to get rid of, and there's like no real reason to for now. And like my dad, had his watch collection, and that's something I think I would like to keep going. I think it's just pretty cool, and kind of personally important to me. So I would want to keep a watch in there. Ideally, I don't have to like be on my phone all the time. But I think we might not even carry phones, but it's going to be something else. It's going to be something even more integrated into the brainstem here as technology advances. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but I would say I would have a watch. I think a knife also, depending on where I end up living, I would have that there, just because I don't think that can ever be really replaced.
Mm.
And I would hope in an idealistic future that like not everything is made with instantly, well, actually no, maybe the packaging, like we've developed packaging that's sustainable and easy to use and stuff, and where you don't need knives, and that whole problem is solved, maybe, because that's to be honest what I use my knife for most, just like processing packaging. So
Mm.
yeah, but definitely want a watch in there, I think.
You're gonna stick with general watch and general knife if still needed.
Yeah, because honestly, so many of these things, I won't know if they're still needed. Like, will we still need keychains, or is everything
True.
going to be digital biometric, like cars?
Interesting that you didn't mention a single device, considering how much
We
you use them now.
Oh no, well, exactly, because we use them so much, and the technology moves so quickly. I don't know what's going to be there for the rest of my life. It might sound like, imagine 50 years from now. Will I be alive? Yes, 50 years from now. It's like, oh, where's your smartphone? It's like, okay, grandpa, get back, we might not have smartphones by then.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I think I want to look ahead to the next 20 years. I'm kind of like segmenting in my head quintessential stuff from the past 20 years because
Wait, you think you're only going to live for another 20 years?
let's be I'll be what's the word? I'll be conservative about it.
Okay, sure.
Let's just say I just completely screw up my health and 20 years is all I've got. I am gonna list actual specific items that have lasted 20 years already. So I'm gonna be choosing specifics because I know they have tested they've stood the test of time
Lasted the test of time, yeah.
and have lasted at least 20 years.
Okay,
So
great.
number one for me would be one of my Seiko Monster watches. That both of my Seiko Monsters were born in the year 2000. It's been 24 years, going on
Mhm.
25. I think they're going to be good for the next 25. They're completely mint condition. I think that if I just leave them in their protective storage case, they could
Yeah.
surely outlast me. So that's my one specific thing. I would choose a flashlight from either Malkoff or HDS. And why those two specifically? Because number one, they use my favorite battery, CR123, which
Mhm.
are lithium primaries, not rechargeable. You can replace them anytime. They're the best balance of power versus voltage and storage and capacity and all of that. They use potted electronics and they use ridiculous anodizing on their construction. Both of these makers have been around since the beginning. Their designs have stood the test of time
Yep.
in the past few decades that we've been in
Yeah.
EDC. And I
Also late
think,
2000s, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So around
exactly.
the same time frame.
Yeah. So even so, I'm pretty sure that their flashlights are going to stand the test of time. And lastly, instead of choosing a knife, I think it's too difficult to choose a specific knife. I'm going to go with a Leatherman tool. Maybe if not this one,
Yep.
maybe a Wave Plus or an Arc or something. But it's these designs have been around. This has been this is fairly new, but a Wave has been around what 20 plus years already.
Mhm.
Um, they are rated for 25 years with a warranty, but I know of leather men that have lasted longer than that.
Leatherman. Yes.
Leather men.
Mhm.
So I got my watch, I got my light, I got my cut and slice and everything. And yeah, I'm going to go with those specific
Mm.
ones that are specifically have lasted the past 20 years and being conservative about my poor health lasting the next 20. I think I'm good to go with those three.
Yeah. Oh, I like the way that you sort of constructed that, and the framework that you use. Like, oh, things that have already lasted this long most likely can last just
Exactly.
by their design, right?
Mm.
And their provenance. I think that's really interesting. It got me thinking about how like fountain pens are also have been around forever, and this could probably last forever. However, I don't know. how practical it would be, I guess, like
Yeah.
handwriting stuff in the future. I don't know. I guess maybe I have like a dystopian view of the future when it comes to technology. Jeez,
That's
right?
fine.
It's like
I gave myself 20 more years, so
okay.
what's
Oh,
more
that, yeah,
dystopian than that? I won't even
that's
get to
fair.
see the dystopian future, so I'm being more
Yeah,
pessimistic than you technically.
right. But what's a very important foundational thing that we need to practice to be able to see that dystopian future? I think that is maintenance. So,
Hmm.
Francisco's finds.
Wow.
Shout outs to
Excellent.
Francisco. Yes, ask how often do you do maintenance and cleanup of your EDC items like knives, etc. So how are we going to keep these things lasting until the end of your life in 20 years, Mikey?
Oh gosh, where do we start? Knives, I clean them as soon as I use them. I think keeping them dry and keeping them oiled
Mm-hmm.
and maintained. Sharp, depending on how much I use them, because we are in the position that we're able to rotate through a number of knives, so they're able to relatively keep their sharpness. I do have a guy I send my knives to. As soon as I feel like it's the action is weakening or it's not as sharp, I just give them.
Yeah.
We call them the full spot treatment.
Mm-hmm.
They get the sharpening, they get better lubricant on there, they
Mm-hmm.
get cleaned. I have them retuned and everything just to have the perfect action. So I have that done maybe I'd like to say once a year for the knives. I really put into the rotation. Flashlights, I do about this. I do recharges every 6 months of all of my rechargeable batteries.
Okay.
I do restocks every year probably of my lithium primaries, and then I clean them as soon as I feel like they're dirty. Like if I put them down somewhere, out come the wet wipes, gonna clean the bottom of my bag.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just super paranoid about putting down bags and stuff, and especially if you're traveling a lot, it's stuff is dusty. Have you ever had your luggage wheel touch the edge of your
Oh.
white shoe? Oh my
Yeah.
god, it drives you
Yeah.
crazy. I'm like stepping on eggshells when I'm passing through the airport because the moment that the luggage wheel is the dirtiest freaking thing you will
Mm-hmm.
come into contact with. That thing transfers dirt like yeah, and it passes
Yeah.
through the tarmac and everything. So that's yeah. So that's generally the main maintenance for the main stuff. Multi
Okay.
tools about the same. I just lubricate them. Anything that
Right.
rusts, I already put out of the box. I use something called EDCI. Aegis is the brand. EDCI
Okay.
is the product. It's an anti-rust, food safe type lubricant. So I
Oh,
just use that for
interesting.
anything
Yeah.
that can rust. So
Okay.
and I have a big
I
bottle of
did.
that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question though about flashlight maintenance. So you're talking
Mm,
about just recharging or restocking batteries, but
batteries.
what about like O-rings and lubrication on threading there? I think that's
Yeah.
also something that you can do, right? And what
Yeah.
might that
Oh yeah.
help with?
I use something called nano oil, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's what I use for all of my flashlight threads. What I do is, whenever I get a new flashlight, I open it up and clean up out all of the gunk in the threads using
Yeah.
a cloth. Don't use paper towels because it's abrasive. I just use a random rag to clean out, making it dry, and then apply that nano oil to the threads, and
Mm-hmm.
then that lasts for a really really long time. I also put a little bit of it on the o-ring. It kind of preserves it a little bit more. Some of my really really older flashlights, the o-rings have given out. So
Yeah.
what I did was I bought a whole stack of 300 o-rings in different sizes, and I've just randomly found the correct size from that. There's like 25 sizes of the o-rings,
Mhm.
and I just bought a big box. It's very inexpensive too.
Do you happen to know how long an O-ring kind of lasts? Like what the service
Oh,
interval for O-rings is?
I want to say maybe
I
10 to
guess
15 years,
okay, and
depending
I
on
guess
how
it would
dry it
depend on
becomes.
yeah how often you use it, how often you're lubricating and stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're
Interesting.
using a twisty, it would wear much more than if it's just static.
Mm,
But the
yeah,
oil does dry up, the O ring does dry up, and a combination of temperature plus dryness could cause it to become brittle and break eventually. So,
yeah.
yeah, if you look into, you can buy O ring collections of different small millimeters. One of those is going to fit most standard flashlights. I
Hmm.
just recently, a few years ago, replaced the one in my Gizmo Haiku. That thing's about 12, 15 years old now, and the O ring just snapped when I opened it. So
Oh
just
wow, yeah.
that's the one where I replace it on. Yeah, and then yeah, take a look at Aegis EDCI for rusty stuff. Nano oil I like for lube, or KPL is a good
Hmm.
popular lube for flashlights. And yeah, keep your batteries topped up. Stock up on lithium primaries if you're using those AAAA and CR123. They have a 10-year shelf life, so you don't have to restock that often.
Yeah.
And yeah, some knife maintenance is probably going to be the most um, cumbersome one. But then it's kind of like maintaining watches. Oh, you should answer the watch
So
one.
I was just sitting here
So,
patiently through
that's
your
right.
through your
Okay,
list. Yes,
okay, you can
because
go. You can go.
even in the question before, when you talked about buy like what you're gonna make a buy for life EDC that will last all that time, you mentioned that you could just leave your Seiko monsters in the box and this should be fine. Not necessarily true, right?
True, true.
Because the lubricants in there can dry up. So it is depending on the watch, there will be like a recommended service interval, like a certain amount of years, right? And you just want to do that to make sure that all the internals are lubricated and running well, just so there's no like sort of mechanical obstruction in there. And I do that for my watches. I have a watchmaker out here that actually was the son of my dad's original watchmaker. So it's like a family business. And
Nice.
then now I'm giving him my business. So it's kind of like this father son sort of thing through the generations, which is pretty cool. So whenever I need like my vintage sort of Rolex stuff serviced, I take it to him. And my dad with his collection is just now considered vintage because my dad is older, so he also takes it to there over there, and that's every 5 years is pretty often. I think more modern watches with like better technology can last even longer than that, and it will depend on the type of movement as well. Just to keep in mind, but you could just look up sort of the manufacturer recommends as far as service intervals and just try to stick to that. And you could send that either to I would send it to the manufacturer themselves if you're still within warranty, obviously, for a
Mhm.
service interval, um, or find a trusted, well-reviewed independent watchmaker, especially if you have your hands on an older vintage reference from a brand like Rolex or something, because Rolex, they will the Rolex service centers, they'll replace the original parts with new parts because all they care about is making it working
Run.
as new. Yeah, rather than like preserving the history and all that stuff.
That
Other brands
sucks.
like
That kind of
yeah,
sucks
I
though.
know it sucks, but like other brands are different, right? So like Patek Philippe, they'll charge you a lot, but they'll do the most that they can to keep it as original as possible, and
Mm.
that's more of like a collector thing. So
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
think about that. Um, with watches, I don't get mine polished ever because that also supposedly can it can go wrong basically if they over polish and it just ends up looking weird. So I don't polish my watches.
I had
Um,
some watches polished very, very minimally just to hide some scratches
mhm.
in the bottom part of the wrist part, the one that
Yeah,
touches the table and all of that. But other
yeah,
than that, yeah, same. I just keep the battle scars. And I think for a lot of people, maybe most of our listeners are going to be rocking G Shocks. That's the replacement battery and the O ring on that is very, very inexpensive. It's such a standard thing. It's a
hmm
standard battery, so that's probably the most common thing you'd run into. Most G Shocks are rated for maybe what 3 to 4 years. Mine has lasted well over 7, and it's only now starting to flicker.
right.
So pretty impressive longevity on G Shocks actually. Very, very
Yeah,
efficient with the power.
yeah. So like all your gear, it will just depend on how
Yeah.
you use it and how you're treating it. But it is important and good thing Francisco's finds is asking like, well, how often should you do it? At least you're thinking
Yeah.
about it, right? So there'll
Yeah.
be different ranges and it'll kind of depend. But this is just, I guess, how we do it. With knives, I sharpen just when I feel it's not cutting the way that it used to.
Same. Yeah.
And I do that on a sharp maker. Or sorry, not a sharp maker. Yeah, no, sorry. It's a work sharp. I have
Mhm.
the work sharp system now. I used to use the Spyderco. I think that was called the Sharp
Classic.
Maker. I forget. Yeah,
Yeah, the sharp maker.
but the Work Sharp has this arm on it and like a bunch of clamps, so it's more controlled. It's not
And
as freehand.
completely consistent angle and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I use that, and then what else do I have to maintain? Or you covered most
Yeah.
everything. The other things I can think of are like,
Jewelry.
I mean that you can just. Well, it
Just
depends. I would say
electrosonic
just
cleaner,
I don't
ultrasonic
even do
cleaner.
that. I just soap and water with my hands in the sink, and I don't polish them or do any anti-tarnish stuff. But ultrasonic, I think, can work. But again, that's like very expensive stuff.
You know, the nice
just
thing about
research a little bit more.
titanium, the nice
Mm,
thing about titanium stuff is you just rubbing alcohol and just wipe it down. That's all the cleaning it because it's
yeah,
such a resilient material. It doesn't need much maintenance. Another hidden benefit to titanium stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Then other just like random fringe EDC stuff that some of you might be into for fountain pens. Like anytime I'll switch colors of ink, or if I'm gonna put a pen away for a while, I want to flush it all out of ink and not leave it like inked up and then sitting, right? So just clean that out. They have different sort of pen flushes you can use, but just water, like enough water over time should get rid of all the ink, and you can use like those little syringe bulb things that for babies. I think I've seen that used like to clear out babies noses or something. You
Mm.
can like stick that into the back of your nib unit and just flush out ink that way.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and then let those dry and put those away. So that's one thing. And then the last thing I can think of is conditioning your leather. So if you have
Oh, I
like
was just
headphones
about
or
to mention
something,
that. Yeah.
right? So if you have headphones and they're like ear pads on them that are made of leather, those can like dry up and crack over time. So you want to condition those to get as much life out of them. Wow, that's a lot of like random
Yeah.
disparate
Geez. I got
maintenance
more.
tips.
I even have more.
Uh-huh.
Like re-wax your wax canvas stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maintain your leather. Use your sneakers because they're gonna crumble on you if you don't. Um,
Oh yeah.
there's so much stuff, but yeah, there's generally if you're using something a lot of, you just want to you keep it well maintained, keep it clean, keep it dry. Just as a general,
Mm-hmm.
piece of advice. But yeah, hopefully that we covered a lot of stuff. Hopefully that covers most of it.
Yeah. That didn't
Yeah,
even answer the question. The question is just how often, not like what
yeah.
do you do and what should you do, but lots of
I would
information
say
there.
yearly take stuff into stock. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I do things like yearly. Thinking about stuff maintenance yearly or rearranging stuff or reorganizing stuff. Just put the maintenance as a part of that reorganization. I think is a good
Yeah.
mental
So
exercise for me.
would you consider maintenance a necessary thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You want to keep
Okay.
things just in the same way as I like keeping things dead stock. Keeping
Mm,
things dead stock also means keeping it as clean and as pristine as it
there you
originally
go.
came. So yeah, I am gonna do my best to keep it in absolute tip top condition. Yeah.
So speaking of things that are necessary, what about our question here from a new asker? Par Wars asks, is color coding your carry necessary or just a fashion statement?
Somewhat related. I had to go to a family gathering and they were forcing people to wear white shirts. And
I
I
just went
just
to a
went
wedding
into
over the weekend and they
I
forced a
just
full white, all white,
I just went into
yeah, attire.
semi panic and I spent possibly a few hours in the mall looking for a white shirt. I don't own any color. I don't own any colors. And I'm
That's
like,
funny.
"Ah." And what's most annoying is the family photo didn't even happen where
Uh,
everybody was wearing white because somebody forgot. Oh my god. Anyway, is it necessary for you or a fashion statement? Me, it's both.
so I can say it would be both, but to add to your anecdote, I went to a wedding over the weekend, and yeah, the dress code was all white, and uh, I did that actually. I had all white, but I also changed my Ridge wallet to a new
Oh,
Monaco white ceramic coat wallet for that.
I
Anyway,
gotcha, gotcha.
yeah. Might as well, right? Because I'm usually not rocking the white
And you have the
Ridge
white dial
wallets.
watches as well. You're
I
you're
I
coming
did,
pretty
I did.
prepared.
Anyway, so is color coding your carry necessary or just a fashion statement? I think it can be both, and there's situations where both might apply. So I
Yeah,
can think of situations where it is necessary just for the task at hand. So military stuff, right? Military
uniform
law
standards. Yeah,
enforcement, yeah, exactly. There's standards there. You're not going to be rocking like I don't know, pink BDUs if or something, or just like a pink tactical pack or whatever. Like there is some function to the color there.
yeah.
Um, and then even stuff we see like high vis orange when you're hunting, camo, different kinds of camo, right?
Mm,
So, but interestingly, fashion has no rules really, right? Fashion
yeah,
can take a lot of those things that are necessary standards in other places and use them as reference or inspiration to make an aesthetic fashion statement, right?
yeah.
So we could see that in and we do like people will wear olive green and camo and stuff like that, or all black with the tactical look.
Or all
So
gray if they want to be gray man. I'm
that
just that's
that's not how it works, Mikey. That's not what gray man means.
we'll cut that out in editing.
Yeah, so I think the question itself doesn't really need to have this either or dichotomy. I think it can
True.
be both,
Yeah,
right?
that's a real answer, I think.
Yeah, we see a lot of color coding on social media anyway, just because I think that's just more visually satisfying and kind
Mm.
of helps the algorithm and that sort of thing. But so many people get by with things that don't necessarily match. But I think there is some fun in finding that visual component that ties things together, adds that cohesion, along with the bases covered, the functionality covered. So
I have an answer here that it is a fashion statement for me, while it's also necessary because it also frees up, we've talked about this before, it frees up decision making for me. If I am
mm,
wearing a uniform as far as the main pieces of my outfit, I don't have to think about it. It's easy for me to pack, it's easy for me to go
right.
out. I just put on. I can choose between shoes, between hats, obviously, between my watch and other stuff. But then the main parts that some people can struggle with. If I have a nice fitting shirt and the same nice fitting pants, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm,
I can just spice it up with sneakers or a different hat or something. So it is a fashion statement for me, but there is some utility that I ascribe to it because yeah, especially the packing. I see people really have trouble packing, but I'm like, okay, four of this shirt, two of this shirt,
yeah.
all of the same socks, all of the same underwear, done. It takes me 15 minutes to pack for a 4 week trip. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy for me to have. It's become that sort of utility for me. So yeah, a little bit of both.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to apply that kind of utility that you're describing, where it lowers decision making,
Yeah.
to more specifically like a core EDC, right? Because I don't think
Yeah.
you're going to run into the same problem of like, oh, what EDC do I pack for today based on color? Like, that's not really a
No,
thing,
no.
I would say.
Yeah. Not
But I think,
anymore.
right? I
Used to,
think
yeah.
one aspect or potential added utility that goes beyond like uniform standard or just the function of that thing being a certain color versus the fashion statement thing is also it helps constrain your collector or buyer journey or decision making in that sense, right? So if you commit to a certain aesthetic that you're looking for, then it kind of weeds out a bunch of options because there's so many more options now, right? So maybe if you're just making a full ultim carry or a full titanium carry, then like you don't have to stress between like, oh, am I going to get this
Yeah.
version,
Yeah.
this variant, whatever. Um,
And
so
it
that
becomes
might
easier
help.
to choose stuff if you're presented with a choice. There's no choice paralysis. I'm just gonna choose black every time. It's
Yeah.
just that much easier for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there are lots of ways to look at color coordinating your carry. I think it might, for many people, it might just be as simple as these two things. It's like, I need to do it for work or I just like the way it looks. So,
Exactly.
but hopefully that kind of exploration gave you more ideas to consider and maybe you'll land on something there. I'm curious
Mm.
what people think like about these themed EDCs and the color coordinated stuff. And if they do it, and if they do, what color do they do and why? So
Mm.
pretty interesting question. Thank you for
Yeah.
that, Par Wars. And if you guys want to send more of those questions, you can do that on our Instagram or at podcast at everydaycarry.com through the email. So why don't we jump into the user submissions as we close out the show? So here we have one from Thomas at thomas.edcstuff. And they said, I went from collecting EDC like many people do to deciding to settle on one user or keeper of each category. I carry and grail hunted to find my favorite of each category, and this is what I came up with. Definitely
Yeah.
grails in here for sure.
Oh yeah.
Like you're starting with the discontinued limited edition Leatherman Garage Batch 5 40th anniversary with the Magna Cut blade, right?
Yeah. So this is Thomas's is definitely an aspirational one.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just said, he's done the whole journey, and he's, as we've been talking about the past few weeks, he's locked in on the ultimate end game stuff of each category, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe he's done. Maybe he's actually done,
Dude, I would
but
be done.
he has picked up some unobtainium stuff pretty much. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the 005 Garage is the basis of the Leatherman Arc,
Yep.
and that was the original one that had the Magna Cut, and it comes in white Cerakote pretty slick. It has those vents, the skeletonized
Hmm.
vents. It's got a unique colorway. Discontinued. Those went by really really fast.
Yeah, we
Um,
didn't even get one.
I know we couldn't
Yeah, and
like they just
we can ask Leatherman like in
yeah,
advance, like, hey, and we couldn't get one. They're very
and yeah,
limited.
they're just like a nope. Another thing I wanted to point out is the Okluma. Okluma
Yep,
has long been um, an end game stable for high end
for
flashlights.
flashlights. Yeah.
Yeah, so DC Zero is their double A, I believe, double A platform. DC One is the CR123, if I'm not mistaken, but completely, I believe it's either going to be titanium or 7075 aluminum.
Hmm.
This is the highest tiers of
High grade.
materials,
Yeah.
all very well machined, very impeccably machined. Apparently, excellent customer service, even if you buy them on the secondary. So,
Mm.
if you're aiming to get an Akluma, it's a good product to buy. All things considered, it's very very end gamey stuff. And
Hmm.
then massive fixed blade in some nice leather. I forgot which one was this.
The fixed blade, yeah, I don't recognize it either, especially since it's in the sheath. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with fixed blades. I don't think they disclosed what it was, but they do have the Rockstead folder. I believe this is some like premium made in Japan stuff, if
Mhm.
I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, ZDP. That's the one my one and done Spyderco Dragonfly came in, and they never used that
Yeah,
material again
yeah.
because way too it heat treated to way too hard, so incredibly hard to sharpen.
Oh, okay.
But
So the Rockstead, they have a Rockstead fixed blade. That's what that is.
right. Yeah, so in a fixie, it makes a lot of sense because edge retention, fantastic. And then you have another knife.
Yeah,
Oh,
what
they
is
didn't.
this? I thought this was the Rockstead,
Oh, they
but
didn't specify which it was.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's also a Rockstead. So I will like double check real quick.
Or given the
Uh,
rest of the stuff, it's probably a one-off custom. Could be as
yeah,
well. The only thing I could actually identify and link people to that still existed is the Zippo. So I'm
hmm,
sorry, but yeah, this is what an endgame EDC could look like. This is pretty much nowhere to go for a bunch of these categories. Really, that's already one of
yeah.
the best flashlights, one of the top tier fixed blades, and
Sorry, I keep
absolute
going back and forth because I want to like see. Is it this? No. Um,
could be actually, could be actually.
Dude, I think it is. I think it is another Rockstead. Because you can kind of see that. Yeah, I think it
Oh
is.
yeah,
It's this.
the
Yeah.
cutout.
So I was gonna say like it wouldn't surprise me if this person found what they thought would be endgame and in the fixed blade and decide to buy the same brand for their folder because that is very like me behavior. I think very you behavior also,
Same.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's just the
Rockstead is
brand
a brand.
synergy.
Yeah, exactly. Rockstead is a brand that I am pretty interested in, just because they're Japanese and like you don't see too many Japanese knives.
I
And
know, right?
if I like
Surprisingly,
but I mean, it's because like Japanese craftsmen are so dedicated to the craft, right? It's like
and
their
they've moved
life's
on
work,
to cutlery. Most of the old makers.
right? But I mean,
Yeah,
even this is like 1350 for
yeah,
right for the folder.
yeah.
But I get it. It's because like my favorite watch brand is like Grand Seiko, and they have a lot of these same elements. This dedication to the craft and like the mastery of that. I think that's
Mm.
really cool. And if I were to if I loved knives as much as I do watches, I think I would go this route eventually. But
And it's not
there's just so
also
many options. Yeah.
it's also not that mainstream. It's got a little, if you know,
Mm.
sauce to it. So very
Well,
Bernard, actually.
no,
Very.
no, that's you. You're the if you know kind of guy. I'm okay with being mainstream now. So, but thank you very
Okay.
much
Okay.
to yeah. You'll get to know more about me soon,
Yeah.
Mikey. I feel like
It's
you're operating on some old, outdated beliefs,
it's
but
it's like we haven't done almost 50 episodes in a
yeah.
barrel. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I haven't been telling the truth for the past year here. So,
Yeah.
thank you to Thomas EDC stuff. Congratulations on acquiring so much of this Grail stuff.
Yeah.
It's very cool, and thanks for putting us on to kind of what the upper end looks like. And I hope that
Mhm.
works out for you. So let's jump into our next one. This one is from Stephen Davis at Everyday Carry Constitution. This is
Mm.
another themed color coordinated carry here. This time
Yeah.
it's all green and
Getting a lot of
so
green lately. I like it.
yeah. So they're a lawyer in St. Louis, but a newcomer to EDC. And they said, if you can't tell, I love OD Green, fairly new to EDC. And the centerpiece is my first Benchmade, which they acquired at the St. Louis Gateway Area Knife Club knife show this past
Nice.
weekend. Yep, larger than they usually carry, but loves everything about it. Perfect color aluminum scales, Tonto blade, quality steel, beautiful coating. The watch is the Hamilton Cooper, and his dad wore a 1950s Hamilton Dynamatic watch. So this one, especially because it was the dad's watch in Interstellar, reminds me of him. And as a lawyer, have and use many pens like this Everyman pen.
Fantastic.
Yep. And they really like the Everyman ink refills, which they use in their Tactile turn bolt action pens. And if only they made an OD green pen, then he'd carry the Tactile turn. So, and then rounding this out, that of products we didn't mention is the Arcfeld Pro in OD green, and then an Orbikey in waxed canvas on a Gondek EDC topographic hank here.
This is the kind of watch stories I love too, because it's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of both of us, right? Like the father son
Yeah,
story, and then
the
the
movie
movie
thing. Yep.
connection. Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
a little bit of both of us in this pick.
Yeah,
I
so
love
maybe
it.
we're
Yeah.
not that special after all, Mikey. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe other people are doing the same thing we are. Yeah.
Maybe we're just half as special as we think, and combined,
Mm.
it becomes a
Mm.
little bit something special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite here?
Oh, I love the Benchmade. A
I was
very
gonna
not
say
a
the
yeah,
bailout is pretty cool. You don't see that too often, and it
and
very much
and
fits that like tactical EDC kind of
yeah, and I have come around to
function.
Tantos of all shapes and sizes. I've come
Mm-hmm.
to love. I used to not like it at all, especially
Mm-hmm.
American Tanto, which is the pure edged ones instead of the rounded Japanese Tanto edge. But
Mm.
I'm starting. I'm loving. I've become much more open minded about knife blade shapes, and I'm just enjoying the whole entirety of the knife rather than just specific features of it. So yeah, I love it.
Mm.
I like the choice of Everyman, not a very common pen brand as far as machine
Sure.
EDC pens, but like you
Mm.
said, the color is there. So, if you make it, they'll
Yeah.
come.
And this is a twist one. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why they're looking for a bolt action pen from Tactile
Oh,
to do
fair.
this.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
And they do come in different options here, like different sizes and mechanisms. So this one's
Mhm.
probably the smallest one because it's a twist mechanism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And it's less expensive than like Tactile's offerings, but then again, it's also I believe just made of
Anodized
T6
aluminum.
T6 aluminum instead of like titanium or something. So
Yeah.
but it does get you your machine pen very pocketable at a lower price point. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Nothing much
yeah,
to say. Olight
yeah.
Arkfeld,
This
one of
was
the
a
most.
good explanation. Everything's like really well thought out. There's some sentimental things, some just practical things, right? And then some new stuff. I also like that they went to a knife club knife show. That's cool.
I'd love to join one of those.
Mhm.
There's none in my area.
Um,
Zero knife singles in my area.
yeah, they can be pretty intense. There's just like so much, and for me, sometimes it could be overwhelming, just like overstimulating. Like all this product, all these people,
Oh yeah, you've been to
so much
Blade Show and
excitement.
all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been to Shot Show mostly. Shot Show, Outdoor Retailer. I still haven't made it out to Blade Show because there's
Oh,
like a bunch of
I can
them.
only imagine, man. If you're a knife
Yeah,
fan, it's just
yeah,
Disneyland. Yeah.
yeah.
Sheesh. Yeah.
But very cool. Welcome to the hobby there,
You're doing it right.
Stephen. Yeah.
Off to a
Um,
good start. And
yeah.
nice watch.
Yeah, very much so. So thank you for the submission. And then we'll round out the show with our last submission here. This one is from Don Robs at Norwegian underscore EDC. So another kind of like greenish brown carry. I guess that's the theme that we got going on today. And
Mhm.
in here we have the Mechanics Wear multicam work gloves, the SE Azula with skull bead on there, Soul Built Marksmith. I think you can tell us what that's all about.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then the Armitech Wizard C2 Pro Max, Leatherman Signal, and then the classic Victorinox.
Yeah. A lot of
Little
classics.
paracord. Yeah.
If you're in any sort of work or duty, you're probably going to be wearing mechanics gloves. They're
Yeah.
probably the most
You
common.
have a pair, right? I have a
I,
pair.
I have two pairs. I have a
Yeah.
cut proof one and I have a grip one. The
Yeah.
grip one
I have the
is really,
swaggy high
really
vis
nice.
ones.
Oh no, my
Yeah.
cut proof one is a swaggy hikers one,
Okay.
but
Nice.
the one I used to use a lot was the high grip one, like full grip
Mm-hmm.
material from tip to the bottom. So it's like, since my grip is starting to go in my old age, since I have 20
Uh,
years to go, I need the extra
uh-huh.
grip.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I love to see that. Man, I haven't seen an Army Tech flashlight in someone's carry like forever.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be in that tier of
They
Army
were
Tech and
pretty like hype, I would say. They were like up and coming, right?
yeah, like around the time of Zebralight, Army Tech,
Yeah.
LZ, those guys, all of those super high performance at the time,
Mm-hmm.
really really well built. Lots of mission ready and duty ready flashlights. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Izula, always a classic.
Mm-hmm.
What's not to like? Izula's been around forever. One of those.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a fixed blade, like SA3, done. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're good for EDC. But so I highlighted for this one the Soul Built Marksmith. It's a really, really unique pen. I believe they reached out to us a couple of years ago. They have something new that's on their way, that's on its way
To
to
me?
you. Yeah,
Ah, okay. I'll look for it.
but I got to try this very first one, this black. It's a metal Sharpie with a retractable. The clip is the one that you strike, that you slide down, and that
Okay.
exposes the refill, which is a permanent marker.
Yeah. Is
So
it like bolt action or just like you just slide down?
it's a
Oh, it is
slide
bolt
down.
action.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
technically a bolt action, but it's the whole clip that slides down.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it
Cool.
uses these refills. It comes with two of them, but they also sent me different highlighter colors, so it's compatible with this specific
Different refills.
plunging refill.
Oh,
And
interesting.
other than that, it's very much it's a Sharpie that's a retractable, and it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah. A little bit on the expensive side, but
Yeah, I was
you
gonna say
yeah, I
comes in
feel
matte
like
black. Ah, and
yeah. Ooh,
titanium
look at the
brushed.
big silver
I
one.
see.
Yeah. So
Okay.
my understanding is they've listened to the people, and something a bit more minimal and everyday is on its way to you as well.
Oh,
So we'll
nice.
we'll we'll swing back around to Soul Built when
Okay.
that comes back
Yeah,
around.
and it's grade 5 titanium with torque screws. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was
If
wondering.
you're looking for the most overbuilt Sharpie you can buy with some fidget factor to it, then you found it. This is it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice. Anything else you want to highlight here? I just wanted to appreciate that like they're actually this whole trinity, right, of slice, right, and light are non-standard, I would say, because you have a fixed blade, then you have a permanent marker, and then also you have a 90-degree angle
Yeah.
flashlight.
That's a
That's
headlamp,
not really.
actually. Yeah.
Oh, it's a headlamp. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then there you go. That's already like non-traditional. Um, so, any thoughts on why somebody might EDC a headlamp or a 90-degree light? Like, what
Um,
would that be useful for people who might not be familiar?
Well, what's nice about it is it's not just a headlamp. Like in this case, it's not on the headlamp itself. It can come up for 90 degree, and what that can help you do is it's more comfortable if you're holding the flashlight like just straight up.
Hmm.
If you're just holding it like a mug like this, and you have
Yeah,
light like that. The other advantage is the clip on the back can usually attach to a
a
backpack
bag
strap.
strap or a
So
pocket or something.
yeah, if
Yeah,
you're carrying a sling or a backpack or anything and you're outdoors and you need to be hands free, but you don't
yeah.
want to wear the headlamp, that's another option.
Hmm.
Yeah, so 90 degree lights have their place. It's a bit more
Yeah,
versatile.
especially
Yeah,
yeah for hands-free tasks, I would say.
yeah,
And also since it's 90-degree, generally you can just you don't have to ceiling bounce it to get light for hands-free stuff if you're not attaching it to your body. So you can just set it on a table, point it at whatever you're working on,
yeah.
right? And then you kind of get access to that as a task light. So that's the one that comes to mind for me, why you would opt for a 90-degree light. Um, yep.
Also, given the gloves and the wear on the fixed blade, I feel like this guy is busy.
Mm-hmm.
he's
Mm-hmm.
he's on a mission somewhere, or he's on
Yeah.
adventures much way more than us.
Yeah.
Given
So.
given the wear on the
Mhm.
knife and the fact that it's a fixed blade, just much less maintenance, much more reliable for heavier tasks, and for everything else, he has redundancies in the multi-tool section. So yeah,
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, also the Leatherman signal is the topographic
yeah,
outdoor version of the signal, right? So it's like the most outdoorsy kind of Leatherman you can
yeah.
get. And
Exactly.
then yeah, you also have
And
like
matches the rest of the
overbuilt
kit. Yeah.
permanent marker. Yeah. So I think you could get a lot of work done in any condition with an EDC like this. So thanks so much to Don at Norwegian_EDC. Follow them if you like their content here. And again, if you want to have your EDC featured on the site, you can also just go to everydaycarry.com and hit the submit your EDC link or the link in our description. So I think that just about wraps it up for today's episode. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Hit the subscribe, share with a friend, and follow us on socials. And if you want to be part of our EDC community, feel free to hop into our Facebook group or Discord server for more real-time discussion with other EDCers. Lastly, if you have any feedback for us or questions you want answered on the show, you can shoot us an email at podcast@everydaycarry.com. So thank you so much for listening to Carry the Way. I'm Bernard.
And then Mikey.
And until the next one, peace.